Welcome to the Nephology podcast. I'm your host, Joe David, and I'm the founder and CEO of Nephos Group. On this podcast, we talk to founders, innovators, disruptors, and entrepreneurs from all across the globe who are building in Web3, technology, and finance. And if that's something that you're interested in, please hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any of the latest episodes. Now on to the next episode. Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Nephology podcast. We are in a slightly different setting today. We're in the London studio rather than in the Dubai studio. Wanted to make sure I got some content with some amazing people over here in London. So yeah, the first of those conversations with Alastair, founder and CEO of Workhorse. Thanks for coming in today.
It's a pleasure.
Cut short a family holiday to
That's right.
come and join this podcast. So we very much appreciate that. How have you been?
Yeah, very well. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, enjoying the summer.
Yeah, no, it's been. I haven't been here the whole summer, but I've heard that we've had some very good weather in the UK for a change.
It's been great. Yeah, nice change.
But I've always get complaints one way or another, right? If it's too hot, we get complaints. If it's too cold, so you can never win in the British world. But but good. Thank you for coming in and good to see you. So for those that don't know, maybe you could give a little bit of an intro into you. The business that you're running, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So my name's Alastair. I'm the founder of Workhorse. I've been working in software for 30 odd years. I started as a graduate trainee in management consultancy, and then started doing my own software builds a long time ago now, just one-off things. And then about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to try and set a business up. The thing I was good at was software, so that was really where I went. Yeah. And Workhorse has been around now for 8 years.
Okay, wow. Yeah. Okay, so it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe then, what is Workhorse? And maybe why you decided to start Workhorse specifically?
Yeah, so Workhorse is an inventory management system for small, medium-sized businesses. We're primarily working in the UK, but we do have some international clients as well.
As we have a mutual one.
Yes, exactly.
Which we'll come on to.
The gap in the market was really we work with people who want a bit more from their software than they were getting from off-the-shelf systems. Mm-hmm. They can be a bit generic, a bit complicated. You inevitably end up doing things outside of the system because it's not flexible enough. And that was really where we wanted to position ourselves, was just offering a bit more than an off-the-shelf application. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. And I think we were talking before we came on air of my experience a long time ago now, but in manufacturing, where we had to effectively employ people to get data out of systems into Excel because it didn't natively come out, so that we could do what we needed to do with it. I mean, it was just a complete waste of time and money to have to do that. So you're trying to fix that problem effectively.
Exactly. A lot of people, even if they're using a cloud-based inventory system, are still using Excel spreadsheets, a lot of Excel spreadsheets. Yeah. And we were trying to eliminate that, or at least minimize it in a business. You want one place where you're capturing all your data, where everyone's looking to manage the operation. You don't really want to have spreadsheets outside of that. So that was the key to what we were trying to do.
Yeah, makes sense. And what makes you, I guess there's obviously a reason why you think that Workhorse is one of the better solutions out there, but being in the kind of cloud accounting space for 10, 11 years now, there's a lot of inventory management tools out there. Some are excellent, some are not so excellent. Yeah. What makes, I guess, you think that Workhorse is the one that people should look at? Yeah,
so there are some great applications out there, like you say, and actually if you've got a sort of pick and pack operation where you're selling high volume, low margin, do you know what, Workhorse isn't the best solution for that. But if you've got a bit of complexity to your product structures or your processes, or a bit of complexity to the business, then actually that's where Workhorse can really come into its own.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So you are looking then for, like you say, the more complex inventory management kind of situations, rather than, like you say, a warehouse that's literally kind of picking stuff off the shelves and shipping it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's and often people will have looked at those other applications and decide that it just doesn't do enough of their business to warrant putting it in, that they're still going to be doing a ton of work outside of it, and then why pay the money, why go through the pain?
Do it all. Okay, so let's take an example then of why, a particular kind of complex industry or complex manufacturing business. Have you got an example of what that might look like?
Yeah, so I mean, we have two primary sectors in the UK, which are food and drink, furniture and design. Okay. And both of them have really similar problems, and it's around the complexity of their product structures. So bills of materials, the obvious one, but then they want to batch track products, so key for food and drink companies, obviously. But also in manufacturing spaces as well. They need to batch track the components that are coming in, what they're getting used for, out or used in rather, and then who they're being dispatched to as well.
So the key for you then is those areas where, like you say, there's that batch tracking, so they need to track individual items within a build or something like that, and then also that bill of material side of things as well, which again we spoke about, where lots of people think that for manufacturing or for inventory management, let's say, people think inventory management is one in, one out, which in some cases it is, but in a lot of cases it can be a very complex, sometimes up to thousands of items that go into something to then end up being something at the other end, right? And that's where
so you get sub-assemblies, so you're making things to stick on the shelf to then use in further manufacturing processes. So there's multiple production steps often, so it's not just grabbing a bunch of things off the shelf, putting them together, and then you've got your finished goods. And then also I think with smaller businesses there's additional complexity because they're often not doing all of it themselves. They'll outsource some. We're working with a couple of cosmetics companies, for example, who buy all of the packaging for all of their items, but then they send that packaging to a manufacturer who will finish the items for them. So the manufacturer is making the cosmetic and putting
for example,
it in the bottles.
like a Christian Dior, for example, they would, most of the, so 80% would happen prior to it getting to Dior, for example. Then Dior would put their packaging on it, finish it off and send it out type thing. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Or they might send that packaging to the manufacturer. So the manufacturer's got it on site. And then you're managing off-site inventory levels.
Right.
How much have I got? I can't walk out into the warehouse. I need to know how much packaging I've got so that I don't run out when I'm doing my next production run.
Yeah, fine. Okay. And I guess then things... where you have multiple sites, multiple warehouses, like you say, different sites may even use things in a different way. I'm making this up, but you might have one site that has perishable goods on site and another one that doesn't, for example. So then you'd have to manage the difference between what you need to do with the perishable stuff versus the non-perishable stuff, and you can manage all of that.
Again, with smaller businesses, they're often outsourcing the warehousing and distribution. So they might have 2 or 3 different locations. They're often selling internationally. So they might have somewhere in Europe, somewhere in America, somewhere in the UK, managing the flow of goods between each of those and the quantities that they've got available in each one. So it can get quite complex. For a small operation, they often have a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, for sure. And then what about things like website integrations and live stock on websites? Can you manage that as well?
Yeah, so we integrate with all of the main e-commerce sites, and it's two-way often. So the very basics, we're receiving the orders that are coming in via the website. So you can track inventory levels, track sales volumes, etc. But then we'll push back things like pricing and stock levels as well to make sure that you're not selling something you don't have. Yeah,
cool. So if I go on ABC's website and it says there's one item, that's been pulled live from Workhorse
from the inventory levels
to make sure that it's the live amount of stock on the website. And how, I guess, because in one sense it's a simple kind of situation, right, in terms of managing stock, but in another sense it's extremely complex. So where are the challenges, do you think, for small businesses right now in terms of how they manage this situation and therefore why they should come and talk to somebody like you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think there's a few different elements to that. One of the key ones is cost of goods. So it's, especially when you're manufacturing, you have multi-stage production processes, you're outsourcing some of that production. How do you track the cost of your finished goods? And obviously absolutely key to running a successful business, you need to know how much your product is costing you. So that's really key to what we're doing, and by capturing all of the purchasing information, all of the production information in one system, we can then aggregate all those costs and provide a true cost of goods to the users and the operations team.
So it really does help across the whole kind of business product life, in a sense. You're around inventory management, but also then the cost of it. And I'm assuming you build in all the other ancillary bits of cost of goods, so freight and
labour.
All those things that come in to get a true figure, rather than just, we bought this piece
Yes, exactly.
Forget the fact that it takes time to make it.
It's not just the cost of the components. But also the labour, the transport costs, the storage costs.
Sometimes VAT or tax on imports and stuff like that. And I guess you're talking, I assume, to a lot of manufacturing business, things like that. I'd be interested, just from a topical perspective, like, are you seeing much impact at the moment from obviously leaving the EU and how that may be affected manufacturers in the UK, but then I guess also maybe with the Trump stuff right now with tariffs and stuff. Have any of them kind of...
So the tariff stuff less, so I think it's taken a while for that to filter through. We certainly saw an impact with Europe. Mostly that was people having to set up in Europe. That's how people have gotten around it. So they've got distribution centres in Europe and they're fulfilling from over there. So
then are you managing international sites then?
Yeah, exactly. So rather than try and ship each order internationally, they are bulk shipping to a European distributor who's then managing that on their behalf.
Okay, fine. But then again, if they were already using you, the process of then opening that European hub or whatever was a much simpler one, because you could then manage that whole process for them and not just
exactly. So if they're managing it on paper, it's just or sort of, I mean, actually sometimes on paper, it's just an additional complexity. So if you've got a system like Workhorse, it just means that opening additional geographies is a bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I found as well in manufacturing a lot of the time, especially, and again, it was a long time ago when I was in it compared to now, but we've also had some clients over the years that have been similar, where they've been making their goods in a certain place in a certain way for a very long time. And a lot of it is up here. It's in people's minds, it's in their brains. It's, so-and-so's been making that particular part of the production line for the last 50 years. They've come in every day to do, and there's just nobody else that knows that. How, maybe you have or haven't, I'm sure you have, but how have you found managing that kind of challenge, if you like, of, let's say, people that are stuck in their ways and think that the only way to do it is the way that they do it, but then trying to get the business to modernize to then use a software like yours? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely, because that's the majority of our clients. They are using spreadsheets, they're using whiteboards, and it's in people's heads. There's one person that runs the operation, or there's one person that runs the production. So absolutely, that's traditionally the people that we're talking to. And I think the majority of small businesses, that is still the way that they run their operations. So then it's about, and do you know what, I think people know they want to change. There's just a bit of the fear factor, and they know they need to do it more efficiently, because actually the business gets a bit stuck when you're running it like that. It's just a barrier to scaling. So I think the desire internally in the business is often there. They just can't see how to get from A to B, and that's actually where we help as well. So we don't just do the product piece, we do the software piece. We've got a really great team of business analysts and project managers who work with the clients just to help them understand the journey to get from spreadsheets and post-it notes to an integrated cloud application.
Fine. So it's not just a case of buying a software off the shelf and plugging it in. It's a kind of consultative management process to get that person from A to B effectively. Yeah,
exactly. And we can tailor our system as well. So it's one of the issues with off-the-shelf systems is, you get it and everyone gets the same system. So with Workhorse, we've got some flexibility in the functionality we can deliver. So if you don't need a certain piece of functionality, like if you don't need to serial number track in your business, you don't see it in the system. If you don't need to batch track, you don't see that either.
Okay.
If you completely outsource production, we can hide all the production functionality.
So you can really simplify it when people look at, because that is the other thing I find, you're right there, where people look at software and there's about a million different options and they just switch off because there's so much, it's impossible for them to even see through all of that. So that's really cool. So you can hide away a lot of those.
And even within the forms, so individual fields can be hidden within forms, so you can really clean up the interface. And then we can change the terminology as well. So if people use specific terminology in their business, that's quite important to them.
Nice.
So you can just relabel some of the fields, some of the forms, and then when people are looking at the system, they're seeing their business. It just makes it easier for that implementation piece to happen.
And do you often find that say, the management are bought in because they get it, but then the teams aren't as bought in.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of manage that.
Yeah. And do you know what? It works both ways as well.
Okay.
So sometimes it's the operations people.
Yeah.
And they'll think, look, this is great. It's going to save me a ton of time. But then they take that to the people who are writing the checks and they go, well, it's going to cost me money.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it happens the other way around, where the business owner is saying, look, I need more visibility of my data. I need better reporting. I want to get, to free up time from my operations team to do more value add stuff, not just data crunch. So yeah, it can definitely work both ways.
Both ways, yeah. And where, like, you may or may not know this, but like from a manufacturing perspective, where do you think that we're still in a place where the majority of manufacturing companies are still kind of paper spreadsheets?
Yeah. That is our experience. We were talking to a quite a large company, a £15 million turnover company last week, and they're using pieces of paper. So once they've captured their initial order, they are then using paper for the manufacturing and production processes. Bedroom furniture.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's it's not complex, but it is.
Yeah, bills of material. Yeah. Batch tracking.
Assembly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that, because you can understand it if, like, say, you could do 15 million and buy a microphone and sell a microphone.
Yeah.
Like, that's very easy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're actually putting stuff together, I think I mentioned again before we came on air, we worked with an aftermarket car part manufacturer, and there was thousands of items sometimes that went into their bill of materials.
Right.
Because there was all these tiny little widgets and screws and, whatnot. And, all of that was paper, spreadsheets, people's heads, and I just, like, don't get me wrong, it's so impressive that they can run these operations.
Well, they're still doing 15 million.
Yeah, exactly. But just think how much potentially they could do more of, or how better. And I don't, we obviously don't want people to lose jobs, but you could also potentially even streamline sometimes the operations of people, and or they can be moved into different areas. And one thing I found, and I'm sure it's the same for you, is that 9 times out of 10 people don't want to do mundane, boring jobs. No. Like, they want to have some creativity and flexibility. And so if you can help them with that by taking away a lot of the paper pushing.
Yeah, I mean, what we find the biggest impact can be the customer service. You just get more time to manage your customer relationships, because you're not data crunching the whole time.
True.
That actually, when a customer phones up, wants to inquire about their order, or you've got an issue that you need to deal with, you've got more time to do that. So I think it's rarely been a headcount. Affecting headcount when we put our systems in. It's more that it's freeing people up to do other more value add activities.
And I guess the other opposite to that is, if you don't reduce headcount, in theory, or if you streamline operations, you can do more revenue on the same headcount.
That's it. That's exactly right. Yeah. So you can scale your business much more efficiently. Yeah. So rather than having to continually add administrative staff.
Yeah.
So we've got an example of a client that's been with us for about 5 or 6 years now. They've tripled their revenue in that time, and they haven't added a single admin headcount.
Wow.
They've added all of it to sales.
Wow.
And that's why they're 3 times bigger.
Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing case study, really, isn't it? Triple your revenue with, in the nicest sense, no additional administrative cost. I mean, we'd all love we'd all love that. I guess that kind of leads on, actually. I was going to ask you about, some like maybe inefficiencies you've seen with clients, but more, not so much the obvious ones, like, everything was on a spreadsheet, but maybe some that were kind of a bit different, or maybe something that when you found it, you were a bit like, oh, okay, I didn't expect it, or any inefficiencies that you've helped them kind of overcome.
We've sort of touched on it already, really, but it's the paper is the biggest thing. So people will capture an order somehow, often with a website, or they'll get an email, or however that is. They'll have a system for capturing those orders.
Yeah.
But then those orders are printed out, and then that passes. It goes to the operations team. We put it to the production team. We pass it to the finance team. So it's just that paper being passed around the business.
Yeah. No, I saw that firsthand at this place I mentioned, and the other thing they did was, in the box of widgets, for example, and they'd have on every box they'd have a piece of paper. And every time you took a widget out of the box, you'd take a piece of paper out of the box and cross out the number before and write in the new number. That was their kind of stock control.
Yeah.
And you can see where that goes. Most of the time people were pretty good and they did it and whatnot. But then you forget once or you forget twice, and then all of a sudden your stock goes out. And then all of a sudden it's an absolute nightmare to handle. So I think that in itself is a huge benefit.
We've seen a client as well who they're taking boxes off the shelves, and then there'll be a piece of paper then say, please reorder me. So that's their minimum stock levels is the piece of paper sitting behind the box.
Which if that falls down the back of the thing, or all these and all these things work fine when they work, but it only takes one, like I said, it only takes a little bit of a breeze in as you're taking that box out, and the thing blows behind you don't see it, and then all of a sudden, I remember one of the companies I worked at, they had the end unit was a really big, I say high value, like 25k unit basically, and the amount of times, because their stock, like I mentioned, was Sage 1000 at the time. It's probably changed a lot since then, but we had to get an IT team effectively to export the data because we couldn't get it any other way. And there would be 20 to 25,000 pound items sat there ready to go and be sold that were missing a £1 widget over here or a £2 widget over there. Do you know what I mean? So then you've got this huge high value good that you spend quite a lot of time and money to get to that point, and you're waiting 3 weeks to get the £1 widget because you didn't order it in time. And that is, it may not be an obvious like cost saving in a sense of like you can't necessarily see it, but it's the opportunity cost, right? There's only so much you can store in the warehouse. And then you talk about, cash flow. You can't get paid until it goes out the door. They were invoice financing, so they were able, as soon as it went out the door, they were able to invoice it and draw down on it, so they could get it quickly, but not when it was sat in the warehouse. Do you know what I mean? So, but if you're not invoice financing, you're waiting for your customer. That time, kind of between when you ordered the goods in the first place to build it, all the way through to getting paid by the customer, could be 6 months sometimes. Which is crazy. So, I think all those things are real value to.
Yeah, there's so many individual elements, I think, to an inventory system when you get it in and you get it working well. That stock turn piece, knowing what's sat on the shelf for a long time, what stock isn't moving, knowing when you need to reorder. Supply chains these days are so complex,
100%,
and quite lengthy often as well.
And especially, I guess now with again, the EU piece, like I imagine getting through customs in the UK is. It's probably not overly complicated, but it's probably a little bit more complicated than it was before. So you might have to add a little bit more time onto that.
Definitely.
And like all these things, they add, they add time. And if the company I was at, they were buying stuff from China. So it would take, because it would come, and then that's a good example, right? So they were buying stuff from China that would obviously come on a boat, and it might take 4 weeks or whatever on the boat, but then they would need this £1 widget. I'm making this scenario, so it may not have been that one that came from China, but they then have to basically air freight that £1 widget to get that good out the door. The air freight was 3 times the cost of the sea freight, for example, and all those things just again, it may not look like a physical number on that day, but overall when you look at it, it adds so much cost and time and things like that, doesn't it, to the.
And I think forward visibility when you're working off spreadsheets is so hard for a business. How do you know, what to buy, when to buy it, how much of it to buy? You can't. You could collate that data, but it would take a long time. And
don't get me wrong. I know some people that are unbelievable with Excel, and they can create some unbelievable stuff. So it is possible. I mean, at the end of the day, Excel can be a database, however you want it, if you're going to sit there and build everything out. But I mean, also all it needs is one change to the system, and the whole thing's it can't be changed because it's all set in its way. If you have one change to that process, it's game over. So you can build it, but can it stay up to date with your business and whatnot? Which also for me amazes me how many people then still aren't using. Why do you think that is? That people still aren't?
I think it's twofold. I think they struggle to find a system that works for their business. And there's this huge gulf between the off-the-shelf packages and the sort of the higher the players at the top of the food chain like NetSuite and SAP. Right? There's not a lot in between that. I mean, that's where we like to think we sit is in between it. So we offer more flexibility, but not for the cost that you're going to be paying or the implementation headaches you've got with a NetSuite or an SAP.
Can you integrate with a NetSuite or?
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily though, because actually the we would integrate with the accounting package like Xero or
Yeah.
QuickBooks. So actually we would be an alternative to NetSuite. And actually we've won a little bit of work off them in the past. Yeah. So for people who've just taken the leap but gone, okay, I just don't need that in my business.
Yeah,
It's so
I was just
complex.
thinking, like, because Xero does have some limitations. Now, don't get me wrong.
Right.
There's a transaction, kind of unofficial transaction point where if you put too much into it, it kind of goes a bit crazy. And again, they're changing that obviously as time goes. But I guess actually Workhorse have taken quite a lot of the load. I think we actually discussed it, or I definitely discussed it with another company when you guys were pitching for this, that the theory is that actually the inventory software would take a lot of that load off the Xero or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means that you still can use a Xero. But I was just thinking, if those kind of larger organizations that think, maybe Xero isn't quite right for them from an accounting perspective, but they really want to use the flexibility, I was just thinking, like, could you integrate with
for sure.
NetSuite if you needed to?
Yeah, they have APIs. Yeah, we just,
okay.
I guess, we haven't done it to this point. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. So I guess moving on then to what we see as the future of this space. I mean, again, from 10, 11 years ago of getting into the kind of cloud accounting space and the movement in all the different apps in the ecosystem of Xero and QuickBooks and things like that is incredible. But like, where do you see this for you? Like, what's the next step for you, if you like, and then maybe the next kind of 3 years or so? Where do you see the?
I mean, it's a real cliche, but you know what I'm going to say, right? It's AI. That's where the industry is going. We're just starting to implement some AI solutions into Workhorse now, sort of point-specific solutions, really. So we've got an order processing tool. So often our companies will, or our clients rather, will receive orders as emails or as text messages or as whatever. So we're providing a service which takes unstructured order information, turns that into structured data, which we can then ingest into the system. So it doesn't matter how your clients are ordering what they want.
Fine.
We can just ask one of the large language models, ChatGPT, or what does this client, who is it, and what do they want, and then provide that to me in a structured format that we can then ingest into Workhorse.
Okay, nice.
So that's our starting point really for AI.
And I guess there are some other simple things, like you can ask an assistant, like, tell me how much of this stock I've got. Yeah. And rather than having to search in the system for it, you could just ask it and it will.
So that business intelligence piece, that's the next piece. Yeah, for us is we're going to look at, so we've got a really complex suite of reports, but if it doesn't give you the data you want, then you need to ask us to sort of amend the reports or provide another one. So that natural language query ability, so you just ask the large language model again, tell me what my stock turn was on that particular item, what are my best selling or best margin products, and that kind of that unstructured ad hoc querying, I think, to get a bit super
of information, or I'm just thinking about this, like blah 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 blah, give me an answer to this. Because that's the one thing I talked to a few of the reporting softwares, and that's the one thing that I've said to them is, like, you can create these structured PDF reports and all, like, lovely, like, great, we can send them out to clients, and clients, great. But actually sometimes you want to just go, what did I do for this particular thing in the last 6 months? I'm just thinking about a few, like, do you know what I mean? Like, where you're just, and that's where, for me, where a lot of these, AI solutions are benefit, where you can just throw in some, like, even yesterday, this is completely random, right? I was playing darts, not real darts, like, where you play those games, they're like electric darts.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, why is the dartboard like it is? I was just looking at it. It's a weird thing that I would think. I'm looking at this dartboard and I'm like, why? There must be a reason why it's like that. So the first thing I do is load up ChatGPT, and I was just like, why is a dartboard like it is? And then it gives you, so the point I'm trying to make is, like, it's the same in business, right? You can go, why did we make less money this month, for example? And then it can say, well, you made less sales and actually your cost went up. Again, sounds super simple to an accountant or what have you, but if you're a small business owner, that can be super valuable, rather than having to message or email your accountant and then them have to look at the data. So obviously we got loads of clients, we don't just know off the top of our head. Whereas actually the large language model can literally
process that super quickly.
So I see that. And do you think, though, there's a danger for you of being like everyone else and just integrating AI for the sake of integrating AI?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we haven't really looked at it, it was only 6 months ago really that we started to think, how can we genuinely apply this to our business? So that's where we've started. We're actually hosting a user group later in the year. So we're going to get some of our key clients together and just ask them, so how do you see, like, this is the sort of stuff it might be able to do. how do you see that impacting your business? Can you tell us how you want us to implement that? So we don't just do it for the sake of doing it. We're doing it to solve specific problems for our clients.
Yeah. And do you think you could, again, I'm talking from lack of knowledge here in a sense, but could you bespoke it? So if one client wants one way of doing something from the large language model and another client wants something else, can you bespoke like how the model works?
Yeah. And that's key to Workhorse, really, because that's what we do for everybody with our core system, right? We make it specific to their business. So we need to be able to make this AI integration specific to a business as well. But actually, we've already done that a bit with the order processing tool, because all of our clients are receiving orders in different formats, and there's different information that they care about. That we've got a trophy engraving company, and they live or die by their delivery dates, right? It's no good if they engrave a trophy, it's not there on time.
Yeah, fair point.
So that is an absolutely key piece of information. So we've made that a key part of the prompting that we're doing. And I mean, that's it really. As long as you can customize the prompt to AI, then actually you can customize the solution for them.
And that is true. I think that's where a lot of people fall down with these tools, is they don't get the prompt right, and then they wonder why the answer's not right, or not right, but like the answer isn't as specific as they wanted, or whatever it may be. You know, so do you think AI is the main thing you guys are going to focus on from a innovation perspective?
And do you know what? 3 to 5 years down the line, people won't be using Workhorse or any other software, as it is now. They're going to be interacting with that data via agents. People aren't going to be sitting there and looking at orders becoming dispatch notes, becoming invoices. Agents are going to be taking care of that and reporting exceptions. So it's trying to imagine where we're going to end up 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line.
And that is the challenge when you've got such a fast moving and in a way the possibilities are endless. So how do you predict an endless possibility scenario? Do you know what I mean? It's very, very, very difficult. So so I guess you just got to keep innovating on it and keep listening, ear to the ground, talking to customers, etc. So I guess we've kind of touched on this already, but bringing it back into the kind of where your customers are. Do they come to you? Like, how do they get to you? Do they get to you because they've spoken to an accountant, and like in our case, for example, and then we've come to you? Do they come to you direct, and then you go, well, that's great, but you haven't got a Xero or QuickBooks, so you need it? Like, how does that work? So
most people have a accounting package. Some people we talk to, they don't touch that internally in the business, so they've outsourced all of it. Only the accountants will be looking at the accountancy package. But most people these days are on Xero or they're on QuickBooks, so they've got that access themselves and they're looking at it themselves. The marketplaces are our best source of
leads.
In
like the Xero and
so people have got an accounting package. Xero does a bit of inventory management, but not really, right? No. So then they think, okay, I now need a bit of additional help with the inventory side of things, and they look on the marketplace, and then we'll come up.
Yeah, I mean, those marketplaces are good for apps, and then it's about you guys. It's about getting the reviews and
it's visibility.
Making sure that you guys are the ones that have the 5 stars or whatever on the App Store, so that they come to you. That makes sense. So it's not so much through the accountant. Really,
we do get some,
but normally it's direct from the customer. Interesting. Which is quite interesting, because when we talk to people, but then I guess we're probably talking to the same people in a sense of we're talking to them before they get to you. In one sense,
because I guess you would take them onto the cloud accounting. Right?
Exactly.
So that often is a precursor to then wanting an inventory system, or even being able to use an inventory system.
Because and does that happen where people come to you that they haven't got a cloud system for accounting, but then they come to you for Workhorse, and then you go, well, you probably need a Xero or a QuickBooks.
That sort of Sage 50 to cloud move, whichever one of them, whether they're staying in with Sage or they're moving to Xero or a QuickBooks, that's quite common with us. So people will come to us with an on-premise accounting package. They'll want to move into the cloud. They're going to lose the inventory capability that Sage 50 has. So that's a pretty common.
And if they come to you for Workhorse, but they haven't got can you do the Xero piece as well?
We don't do that.
Okay.
No. So we would all.
You'd always then say, well, you need somebody
to talk to an accountant in order to do that Xero transition.
But I guess for you, do you see that as a hand in hand kind of like accounting and inventory management? They all kind of they go in like literally hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. Though it's an interesting piece actually, because if you can not separate them exactly, but put like controls between them, then the operations team get what they want and the finance team get what they want, and they don't step on each other's toes.
Yeah.
So if you can just have a nice controlled interface between those two things and have separate systems, actually that can be a real benefit to a business.
Okay.
So that they're not trying to use an accounting package to manage the operation or doing the finance in the operations piece.
Yeah, so you kind of put people in the place that they should be in a sense, you know, and the operations person who maybe doesn't understand the accounting bits doesn't need to worry about that.
No.
And similarly, the accountant who wants his technical accounting software can have that. And
exactly. And the accountants can focus on the finance piece. You know, they can, the balance sheet, the profit and loss, the debtor chasing, the cash flow. Yeah. And then the operations team can focus on getting the product out the door and making sure that they're purchasing well and forecasting well. So it's a good separation of responsibility, really. I think having a decent operation system and a decent accounting package.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess, you know, maybe, you know, going back to the internet, because obviously the client that we're working on together is an international client. Does it matter to you jurisdiction as such?
No, I guess it doesn't. We've never had any problems. We do deliver globally whilst we're primarily UK focused. We've got North American clients, we've got Asia Pacific clients, we've got African clients. So we deliver all over the place. And
in a way as well, industry doesn't matter either.
No. I mean, we're focused on certain industries because we fit them best. But no, there's no specifics around industry.
No, and in the same way that whilst you may not be the perfect fit for an in and out product selection, you could also do that.
And we do have some clients that want, because they want that flexibility from their software. They want to be able to configure the software and tailor it to them. So we can do that whilst there might be inefficient or some efficiencies they're missing out on. Yeah. Where these applications are fully focused on just speed of processing. Actually, the benefits they get from Workhorse with the flexibility outweigh that. Yeah, okay.
And then on just again touching on, I guess, industries and things like that. Where do you like? I mean, you mentioned food and drink, and you said furniture manufacturing. I think as well. Do you think there's ever really a place for like the zero inventory function? Do you think it really? Would you think really, no matter what? No, I
don't, because it's not inventory, because it doesn't manage physical product.
No.
It manages the financial transactions related to the physical product. Yeah. So yes, I think you can start an inventory business and just run it on zero, but very quickly I think you're going to
realise. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's a kind of key point where people want to try and save some money, or in the end you end up, I think the phrase is like, I can't remember, but it's like spend twice or whatever. I can't remember what the phrase is, but do you know what I mean? Spend cheap, spend twice, or whatever it is. So so I totally agree. So I guess anyone that's like listening to this and thinking this is something that I'm in, like what would your kind of, I guess, message be to businesses, small businesses, you know, even growing businesses, scaling businesses that are considering this and that might make them kind of think, okay, we should pick up the phone to you guys?
I mean, it's about understanding the requirement, really. We, like I said before, we aren't the best solution to every inventory issue. Have a look at the marketplace. I mean, we've got a specific set of criteria that we're really looking for, because that's where we do our best work. We add the most value, we'll get the best results at the end of it. But I think any business that just feels a bit stuck, that they're struggling to scale because the volumes are such that they're pushing the limits of the people or the systems within their business, that's when it's a good time to look at the alternatives.
Okay. And then if you had to say what makes you better than the rest out there, what do you think it is?
It's flexibility. We've got the functionality that everyone else has got, but we can tailor it and we can configure it and we can extend it if people need to. So really it's that ability, it's that personal service as well. So we've got a great team who work really closely with our clients just to try and ensure the success of that implementation.
And you've been very involved in the one that we've been
doing. Exactly. I do. I've got a great team, but I've got an oversight role as well. I mean, that was partly the nature of the client that I decided to get a bit more involved in that one.
But it shows that, like, you know, we're the same in our business. If it's right for me to get involved, I will get involved. Whereas a lot of these other entities out there, I won't name any, but like I know them very well. It's sales team, it's implementation team, that you're never going to get the founder on a call. You're never going to get, you know, some of them are now owned by huge, corporate entities as well, you know. So I think for me, when we're talking to small and medium-sized businesses that want somebody that gets them, it's important to know that the founder is available, even if very often you don't do anything on that call.
Yeah.
It's great that it can happen if needed. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. You want to get to the point where it's the exceptions. So
exactly,
that the process will flow. And there are clients I don't touch. I'll often have spoken to them during the sales process, but then after that, it's entirely the team that's delivering. And then there are certain clients, because of it's a new geography, or it's a new industry, or it's something where I think there's an opportunity there for us to
potential partnership.
Partnerships exactly, that I'll then
make sure
get more involved in that process.
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same. We now sometimes I don't get involved in the sales process, depending on where the sales come from or where it's gone to, or the inquiry. Sorry, I very much potentially wouldn't get involved if it had gone through a particular route. I let the team deliver it.
Yeah.
And similarly, the kind of client relationship, I may not talk to them at all.
Yeah.
But on the same token, if the client wanted me to, or if the team wanted me to, or if we felt it was the right thing to do, I'd be there.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is super, super important. Whereas if similar to you, if you go to a bigger corporate software, you won't get that. If you go to a Big Four, or someone like that, you're not going to get that either.
Absolutely.
So that's why I really like this opportunity from our perspective, because our businesses are very similar in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, we've got the same attitude to that. So I think that's great. So cool. So I think we've probably covered everything from my perspective that I wanted to cover here, because I think the key thing is getting people to understand the benefits of what you guys are doing. Any other kind of messages you want to get across to people? No,
I guess it's the benefits. People often look at IT as a cost, but I think if it is a cost to your business, if it genuinely after you've implemented is still a cost, you probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But actually,
or you've implemented it wrong.
Yeah, true. Or absolutely.
Because that's very easy to do.
Yes.
Buy software off the shelf.
Yeah.
Not implement it properly and then wonder why it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And why have you given your team more headaches than they had before? Yes, exactly.
Shiny new thing.
I think we've touched on some of there's some real tangible benefits you get from implementing a piece of software, but there's a lot of intangible ones as well. You'll smooth out some of the inefficiencies in your business, and you'll find that actually then the opportunity cost of not doing it is actually quite big. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So if people want to find out more about you and the business, where's the best bit? We'll link everything obviously in the show notes, but where can they find you? Yeah, so the website's the best place to start, goworkhorse.com. You can book directly into our calendars from the website. If you want to get some third-party independent reviews, the Zero Marketplace is our primary marketplace. Okay. So we've got some great reviews on there, give you a flavour of what our clients think about us, what they've used us for. So that's the best two places. Have you got any content online, like any demo videos on YouTube? Yeah, they're all linked through from the website. Okay. Yeah. Well, Alastair, thanks so much for joining. Yeah, it's a really interesting subject to talk about, because of my background back in the day of very much a kind of long-winded, horrible inventory and stock management process, and so to come kind of full circle now 10 years later or whatever it is, and have this conversation is amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time to come, and look forward to building this relationship. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Thank you so much. Cheers.